The time we're in right now is the time that the disciples, and even before them, the prophets, were waiting for.
A major attack led by the U.S. is underway against Muammar Gaddafi's air defense systems in Libya. U.S. and British warships and submarines in the Mediterranean have launched more than 110 Tomahawk cruise missiles at 20 sites near Tripoli and along the coast. The strikes are meant to make it safe for Allied fighters to enforce a no-fly zone and protect Libyan rebels and civilians from attacks by Gaddafi forces.
First coalition missiles are fired. 112 launched from the sea, heading straight for Libya's air defences. British Tornadoes set off on their own 3,000-mile bombing mission, their longest since the Falklands War. There can now be no doubt about the intentions of the coalition forces.
What in the world? That's exactly the phrase that came to mind when we saw these images. A 4,000-ton frigate fully armed with air defense missiles off the Libyan coast. It wasn't an American ship, it wasn't British, French, Russian, it wasn't any of the usual suspects. It was Chinese. This was a first. The first time in history a Chinese warship has ever sailed in the Mediterranean Sea. The Zuchao, a missile frigate, had been monitoring pirates off the coast of Somalia. But then, amidst the unrest in the Middle East, it broke off and entered the Red Sea, went through the Suez Canal, and then headed towards Libya.
Wars and rumors of wars. No sooner as one war happens, you hear in the news they're looking to fight someone else. We're going to send peacekeeping troops into Libya. When have troops ever went into a country to make peace?
2,000 Marines with the 26th Marine Expeditionary Unit, 2nd Marine Expeditionary Force left Camp Lejeune, North Carolina Tuesday, headed for Libya.
He said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, this is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran.
You'll go through the countries again?
Well, starting with Iraq, then Syria and Lebanon, then Libya, then Somalia and Sudan, and then back to Iran.
The same powers in the earth are behind every war. They was in Iraq, then they went to Afghanistan. The people of Iraq or Afghanistan did nothing against the Western world.
This is naked aggression against another country, but the American people have to be convinced that it's humanitarian intervention.
There's no actual or imminent threat to the United States. And if we don't have enough money for education and health programs or for creating jobs, how is it we have endless amounts of money for war?
We knew he was a thug, and he's been a thug for 40-some years, so I would say it doesn't make a whole lot of sense us shifting gears like this.
You know, we were hearing about wars and all that, now we're in the war.
2010 began with a deadly earthquake in Haiti, and before the year ended, more than 20 earthquakes struck worldwide, reaching a magnitude of 7 or higher, the largest number of major earthquakes in 40 years. Unfortunately, that trend continues.
There shall be earthquakes in different places, which means you'll hear about an earthquake here, then you'll hear about an earthquake over there. Different places you will hear of earthquakes.
Good evening to our viewers in the West, where just hours ago there was the strong jolt of an earthquake. It was a magnitude 7.2 tremor centered in Mexico's Baja California Peninsula, about 100 miles southeast of San Diego, and felt in Southern California and Arizona.
So these earthquakes are prominent within prophecy. Now they have an earthquake 8.8 on the Richter scale in Japan. floods of water flood in Japan. Unrest with the nuclear reactor. Then they set up coups to go into Egypt, Libya, go to all these different places to make uprisings because there's really not enough people to fight all these Arabs. So they're trying to topple the regimes by making the people fight themselves through makeshift revolutions that are set up through KGB and CIA.
We have to think in terms of a global power structure that operates inside the United States mainly, but is not a part of the United States even. I think that above the United States, above the White House and the State Department, we have to think in terms of the global planning being carried out by the global power elite, particularly the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, and the Bilderberg Group. But we are seeing on a planetary basis, on a worldwide basis, how the global power elite is closing the stage of globalization that's been on for the last 20 years, and they are moving on to formal world government.
We're in the tail end of the earth given into the hand of the wicked. All of creation has been tainted, including man.
Evan Borgeson and his sister Rebecca were among the first to see the mess.
It was crazy. There was fish all over the place. We're like, no swimming today, no playing in the sand. It's smelled wicked bad. It's just crazy.
Longtime residents have never seen this here.
This is quite sad for us because, you know, it's Fishermen's Beach Association, and there's 30 of us that actually own this beach. And we'll
like this in almost 40 years. Hundreds of thousands of dead fish washing up on shore along the Delaware Bay from middle to lower townships.
No, I've never seen anything like this. I have to say hundreds when I first saw them, and then it became thousands. There were masses, and they were floating. Just rows and rows, a big row of fish all the way up as far as you can walk. Yesterday, they were in the water, they were jumping up, you could see them, and there was porpoise out here. I guess they were feeding on them.
Residents say the fish began washing up on shore early this morning, creating a foul smell as they baked in the hot sun.
We went down to that boat and then all the way down to that jetty, and it was the same thing, the whole row. All up and down, dead fish.
As far as you can see?
As far as I can see.
I've lived here for 6 years. It's the first time I've ever seen anything like this.
More than 50,000 menhaden washed ashore at Buckrow Beach. Officials say they spilled out of nets of a commercial trawler. Now,
ask the fowls of the air, they shall tell you. So the animals are speaking to us. They will teach you. They'll let you know what time it is. They'll tell you who the wicked is. They'll tell you who the righteous is. And they'll teach you what time it is in this earth.
I thought the mayor was messing with me when he called me. He got me up at 4 o'clock in the morning and told me he had birds falling out of the sky.
This morning, residents in one BB subdivision got an unwelcome New Year's surprise. Thousands of dead birds cover the ground.
Those fish were washed up on the shore, and when those birds started dying, the whole world started taking heed. Even the atheists started looking and saying, hold up, something don't sit right here. Because you can believe what you want to believe, but you cannot deny something is wrong when birds are falling from the sky and your fish and your food pool is drying up. You can't deny that because that will affect you directly.
I've never seen this many fish wash up dead on the beach.
Neighbors were shocked to find thousands of dead herring on this Vancouver Island beach. Fisheries officials are trying to figure out what killed 900 kilos of fish. Biologists have taken samples of the dead fish to try to find out if they are toxic or diseased.
She came around a small patch of trees and onto the sand for her usual walk along the beach. And that's when Dorothy Hobson came upon it, a huge swath of dead fish.
So what's going through your mind when you see all these fish?
I was shocked, and I was thinking, what's going on? Is this a natural thing because I'm only here 7 years, or is there something seriously wrong?
Hobson then grabbed some camera equipment and started taking stills and video. She captured reams of dead fish rolling on shore and piling up just yards from her home on Kent Island, Maryland, along the Chesapeake Bay. Wildlife officials say roughly 2 million of one particular species died very suddenly.
The animals are teaching us something. So when you see animals dying at a vast rate all over the earth, they would rather you look at a few people someplace throwing rocks than to see the signs and listen to what's being spoken. So those are signs. When you see the fish are dying and the birds are dying, that is moving up the chains to snare. That means to trap and destroy men.
Laura Feisenmeyer walks the beach and Gulf shores every morning, but today something caught her eye.
When we came down, there started being dead fish. They're everywhere. I mean, you don't have to find them. You can turn around and see them. They're everywhere.
Charles Kelly with the Gulf Pier says they're spade fish, and only spade fish. This causes him to worry.
The thing is, it's the same kind of fish. It's not a mixture of fish. It's the same fish. It's spade fish, which looks like an angelfish that goes in an aquarium. They just get much larger. But there's just too many of them dying, and of the same species. That's very unusual.
Kelly said they've had reports of these fish washing up along 3 miles of the beaches.
A kind of mystery along the Southern California coast. Millions and millions of dead fish, mostly small sardines. So many, they're actually choking off a harbor. In some places, you couldn't even see the water. So why did this happen? Tonight, marine experts have begun to gather some clues, and Mike Von Fremd has them.
At sunrise, those with a view of normally pristine King Harbor simply could not believe their eyes. Millions of sardines floating dead in the water.
I'd never seen anything like it. I mean, the water's silver for the fish.
Emergency calls went out. The fear was that this was some sort of chemical spill. The fish and water immediately tested.
There are no signs of oil or chemicals or anything else in the water that shouldn't be.
Don't you know that the hand of the Most High brought this? So there's some speaking going on, but you're not listening because the majority of people are following and looking at the propaganda that the robbers are promoting through media. So we're looking at the die-off of creation and looking forward to a new heaven and a new earth. That's what's happening right now. Babylon will be judged. So you can look for a great earthquake coming to America. That's going to break that place up. And that's before the nuclear hit.
Oklahoma's neighbor to the east, Arkansas, is experiencing a swarm of earthquakes as well. More than 800 quakes have hit the north-central part of the state since September. The largest one to shake Arkansas in 35 years struck just last month. It reached a magnitude 4.7. However, researchers also cannot ignore that parts of Arkansas are in the New Madrid seismic zone. It's the nation's most active earthquake zone east of the Rocky Mountains. This year marks the 200th anniversary of the infamous New Madrid earthquakes, the most powerful series of quakes in American history. A huge earthquake in this area today would affect around 15 million people across 7 different states.
In May of this year, the 8 states most affected and more will simulate an earthquake response.
A national level exercise the federal government will practice responding to a large New Madrid earthquake, as well as local communities doing the same thing.
So we are now working aggressively to plan for the National Level Exercise 2011 that will test against a catastrophic earthquake event in the New Madrid seismic zone of the United States, involving 4 FEMA regions, 8 states.
Since October of 2010, there have been more than 750 earthquakes in Faulkner County, Arkansas.
Can you believe it? 4 earthquakes in 8 hours in Arkansas. Good